There's nothing quite like going for a lovely late afternoon, early evening walk, and you find the perfect path, and you can smell the warm forest floor, that warm mulch scent, and then you find the perfect spot to pitch your tent, and you can have that perfect summer camping spot. Let's paint some summer camping. We're going to start with the sky and wet the area down, so a little wet on wet, and layer in some cerulean blue and some Prussian blue and give that sort of deep, almost dark looking sky. And then we'll touch in with a little bit of magenta and just a touch of gamboge hue in the bottom. We're aiming to make it look like it's dusk. So, not quite nighttime, but just a little bit of light left in the bottom of the sky. And we'll add some stars in at the end. Again, our lake is going to be a little wet on wet, and we're going to touch in with some turquoise and some indigo and layer it in so that there's a little bit of a ripple on the water. And we're going to pull up a little highlight where we're going to see the reflection from the sky and the light from our camp. And you want to try not to scrub that yellow in a little bit too hard because it'll end up turning very, very green in there with the wet blues. And we're going to add just a little bit of the magenta so you get a bit of the reflection there off the sky. Now for the side of our tent, we're going to have a lovely red tent and start with, again, a little wet on wet and some Pyrrole red so that it can be a little bit lighter. And you're going to add some cadmium red around the edges to darken it out a little bit so that it feels like the light inside the tent is making the side glow a little bit. And now for the glow inside the tent, that's a whole lot of cadmium yellow deep. And we're going to make that fairly wet so that it looks really nice and soft. And you want it to trail down towards the water a little because it's going to glow on the ground too. Now we're going to fill in the groundwork around our tent, and we're going to start with some burnt umber and a little bit of Payne's gray there, kind of along the edge of the lake. And we'll move that all the way up to the horizon line. And then we're going to start sort of pulling up some of that Payne's gray and burnt umber into the skyline so they're background trees. Using my liner brush, my rigger brush, I'm going to pull some taller trees and start filling in those branches on both sides as random as possible. Working all the trees in a really nice dark mix of Payne's gray with just a little bit of lamp black. We want to fill in that area with those tall trees, and some are going to be taller, some are going to be a little bit shorter, but you'll make them a little bit thicker towards the bottom, leaving a little bit of space just before the tent and the lake. And then you want to kind of pull some up from behind the tent as well to just sort of fill in your composition. With a creamy texture Payne's gray, we're going to make a little bit of an edge there along the lakeside, and then just add a few little rocks along the shore because they're going to be in shadow. We'll add in our tent post right there in the center and a little bit of detail around the edge. We'll deepen up some of those shadows along the shore and on the side of the tent and the post, of course, with a little bit of moon glow. Using an acrylic white pen, we're going to add some of those stars I promised you on the highest part of the sky. There we have our perfect summer camping evening. Peaceful. Thank you so much for joining me to paint today, and I hope you'll be back again. And a gal from the East Coast would absolutely love it if you would subscribe to my channel and maybe like and drop a comment. I'd be really thrilled to read them. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye.